given your passion is, I'm going to say it this way, you don't actually use this word, empowering entrepreneurs, right? I'm going to use that word because it fits
Absolutely.
my language, but you are passionate about that. So an entrepreneur who, is got an idea, or she's got an idea and they're trying to get this idea off the ground. I've coached people like that, and they go for funding and they go to venture capitalists, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Why would they come to you?
Well, one of the benefits compared to what you just said, which is it's very challenging for a lot of businesses to get venture capital funding or private equity funding, particularly if they're not in the right industries.
Yeah.
If you're a recent Stanford graduate in artificial intelligence or computer science, and you live in Silicon Valley, you want to start a business, you have a much higher probability of getting financing than if you've just got an idea. You want to make the newest and best umbrellas on little cocktail glasses or something. I mean, somebody does that clearly, but it's going to be a little more challenging for you. So I oftentimes tell entrepreneurs, debt is much cheaper than equity. And what I mean by that is, I'm all about having entrepreneurs try to preserve as much of their ownership as they can. Oftentimes, when you go to sell, if you're raising equity, you're going to sell off pieces of your business, and you're likely never going to get that back. And that becomes very
Yes.
expensive the more successful you become. So you have to be very careful about that. I remember years ago, I wrote an article and was quoted in a couple more in TechCrunch, which is a big high tech Silicon Valley type media publication. And that was exactly the point I was making, which is you have so many people that'll watch, Dragon's Den or Shark Tank and feel like they've got to sell off a piece of the business. And they don't always look at some of the other options that are out there available to them, like SBA financing in America, for instance. It's a good step on their path. I'm not saying someone shouldn't do venture capital eventually, but oftentimes the financing is, if someone truly has a brand new idea, they want to start a business, usually they're putting their own capital in initially to get it off the ground. They might be raising some money from friends and family. They are using VC, but it's usually Visa card, not venture capital. It's things like that, home equity lines, different things like that to get their business off the ground until they have proof of concept. And once they have proof of concept, and what I mean by that is typically they're either cash flow positive, they're about to be cash flow positive, they have contracts coming in, agreements, what have you. That's usually when they become an option for the kind of financing that I provide. However, SBA financing has become much more widely used in America, particularly after the pandemic, because, of course, the SBA and their lending partners like us were some of the folks that were on the economic front lines during the pandemic. And we actually were able to promote the SBA's lending programs so much better than ever had been the case. SBA has been around since the 1950s. And so you're seeing better quality and further along the business cycle. Business owners come and seek out SBA financing because they want the better terms that we're able to offer to them. So I can keep going, Will, but there's a lot here to unpack. There's a lot of
You can
ways
hear it.
to get
Yes.
something financed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a complex. I'm really listening really intently, right? To get the whole picture. Because I have clients and potential clients. I was talking to one last week, and he needs to raise around 20 million. Going to do it by getting people in his occupation to buy in a certain amount and invest, right? And it's going to these trade shows and all of that stuff. I think it'd be a lot easier if you could just go, can you lend us that money, And
Right.
it's effectively what he's doing. But trying not to give away equity, as you said. That is a balancing,
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So he's kind of crowdfunding a little bit, is what it sounds like.
Kind of, yeah, kind of.
Vendor financing, maybe even. Yeah.